How's it going? Welcome to Chats with Spencer. For interviews just like this one, full of fun and unique questions, subscribe. New videos every Tuesday and Friday. My guest this week is a professional climber and one half of the Wide Boys, Pete Whittaker. If you don't know what crack climbing is, you should definitely check out the Wide Boys documentary with Pete and Tom Randall. Pete is an unbelievable climber. He's done some crazy things. He rope soloed El Cap in under 24 hours. Definitely check that video out on YouTube. I'll link that in the description below. I had a ton of fun sharing laughs with Pete, talking about climbing, and just random stuff as well. So enjoy my interview with Pete Whittaker. Thanks, Pete, for joining us today. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Cheers for having me on.
No problem. Pete, can you just tell us, maybe a couple of the people watching who aren't really familiar with crack climbing, what kind of like defines it and makes it kind of different than what I guess like normal climbing, I guess.
So I think the thing that defines crack climbing from normal climbing is that you're trying to fill the space within the rock rather than hold on the rock, if that makes sense. So you're like putting your hands, your fingers, your arms, your legs, whatever it might be, into the crack and turning and twisting them in kind of weird and wonderful ways, you could say. Whereas more on normal climbing, what you might class as normal climbing, you would be like holding with your fingertips or with the palms of your hands. So I think that's the real difference. You're using all your body parts in all different weird and wonderful ways. Not holding on the rock, holding in the rock. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really unique. If no one has seen it, go check out Wide Boys. You'll see some unbelievable stuff. It looks crazy. All right, Pete. So you grew up in the Peak District and a lot of gritstone growing up, a lot of like rolling hills, and I guess can you just like tell us a little bit about growing up in that environment? Kind of maybe like what kind of kid you were and like that kind of thing.
Yeah. So the Peak District it's basically a national park. So how you would class, a
Okay.
national park over
Hmm.
in the States or whatever. Um, And for me, I actually grew up in a little village in the Peak District. I actually live in Sheffield now, which is just on the edge of
Okay.
on the edge of the Peak District. But I grew up, 45 minutes away in a little village. And I think for me, growing up, I was always, I mean, my parents were sort of always like outdoory type people. Um, so I think I was always shown or, put in front of being outdoors and being in the hills, climbing and seconding on the gritstone. Um, yeah, and these types of things. Yeah, that was kind of basically my, yeah, you could kind of say my childhood in a way. Yeah, yeah.
Is there one thing do you think that kind of drew you more towards the climbing aspect? Because I think I remember hearing in one of your interviews, like your parents are like into mountain biking, and like why wouldn't you like kind of go down that path? I guess.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, my parents are into mountain biking, but they've only been into that more in recent times, I would
Oh,
say.
okay, okay.
But I mean, as a kid, I was into lots of different things, lots of different active things, and I mean, even like sort of more creative things like art and making stuff and things like that. But I think as a person, I've always been uh, like the type of person that like focuses really hard on something. And even though now I'm focusing on climbing, I always
Hmm.
say that it could have potentially been, where my focus went, it could have potentially been any of these other things. I think it just so happened that I was probably best or like best within these activities um, at climbing. So I was better at climbing than I was at swimming or football or drawing or art or piano or whatever, or, like these different things that I kind of did. I was better at climbing, and I think being better at something that automatically draws you towards that thing. So naturally, I just kind of was, yeah, guided towards climbing in that sense. And then when you do something more, you kind of get better at it, and it's like that snowballing effect. And then all these other like interests started dropping away, and that's how I ended up climbing basically. Yeah, just kind of purely climbing now, you could say.
All
Yeah.
right, makes sense. So, Pete,
Yeah.
I'm curious. Were you ever? You mentioned you played football, but were you really big into team sports? I've spoken to some other climbers, and it really sounds like their personality is not for team sports. So I don't know. What about yourself?
Yeah, it's an interesting one actually, because I know a lot of climbers who just hate that whole like, football and
Mhm.
all the team kind of sports things. But for me, um, yeah, I was really into it, and I was really into like any sport, apart from rugby, because I was always really small and I used to get like absolutely smashed. Um, uh, but yeah, and it's like watching any sport as well, I just love it. I'll watch anything, I'll watch climbing, I'll watch football, swimming, golf, cricket, tennis. I'll just watch it all. I just love it. Yeah, anything. I think it's all good. So, and I enjoyed playing all those things as well. If I was given the opportunity to, you know, whack a golf ball with a golf club, I'd give
Mhm.
it a go. Yeah.
All right, so Pete, you kind of just mentioned. Well, I've heard before, and you mentioned it in the interview just before this, that were at some point in your life really into table tennis. So, what's the background behind that? I don't really picture the UK as a big table tennis kind of
I,
place. So,
I wouldn't quite say like really into table tennis
okay.
like I was in a club or anything like
Hmm.
that.
Hmm.
I just got
Okay.
I just got really into playing it with some friends for
Okay.
for,
Okay.
for a couple of years. Um, uh, and it's like like I was just mentioning with any sport, I just really enjoy playing sport and being competitive, uh, and like working hard, getting sweat. Yeah, yeah. So I wouldn't say I was like any sort of master at table tennis. I just got into it for a few years and enjoyed it. Yeah.
All right. So, are there any other things that you're passionate about outside of climbing and outside of maybe like physical activity?
Yeah, so I got probably not so much anymore because I've kind of been limited on a little bit of time, I could say, because my time's been taken up with other stuff. But a few years
Mhm.
ago, I got quite into drawing, so
Okay.
I got quite into like art and drawing, and I guess that sort of like creative thing has like I don't really do much of, or I don't do any of that anymore. But
Mhm.
I think that whole being creative and being a little bit artistic has kind of moved into video editing a little bit because I started
Okay.
a YouTube channel doing the Boyz YouTube channel. And I think like editing films and putting them together. I mean, it's not like I'm very good at it, and I've just been learning as I've been going along. Um, but I feel like I can be a little bit artistic and creative within that process. So I think outside of climbing, I definitely have that sort of like passion for being artistic, you could say. And I think from drawing, it's moved into in more recent years, well, in more recent months, I should say, in the last 10 months, it's moved into more video editing and creating little films and stuff like that. And I really enjoy it, just like putting these clips together and making fun little things for people to watch. Yeah, yeah. And aside from that, I also have the kind of Boyz business as well, and that takes up a lot of my time and effort outside of climbing and training. It's definitely not a physical activity running a business. So, yeah. But I'd say that those are the two things: doing the business and being like creative in some kind of way.
So, kind of related to that, in the sense of creativity, is there any artist or band that you would recommend people check out? Doesn't have to be super obscure.
A band which I've really enjoyed in recent years has been a band called Bicep,
Okay.
and they do sort of what would you class it as? I'm not very good at genres of music. Um, anyway, yeah, Bicep. There you go. People can go and check it out.
All right, will do.
Yeah.
All right, Pete, this is probably my favorite question to ask my guests. Do you remember the first album you ever bought?
Oh, the first album I ever bought, I think it was probably like Robbie Williams or something.
Okay.
Yeah. When when
It's
when I when I was about 11 or 12 or something.
yeah, everyone's answers are always hilarious. So,
Yeah.
all right, so this is kind of a different spin on a question, but if you could teach anyone to climb, so let's just say crack climbing,
Hmm.
and you don't have to necessarily choose a climber. Who would you like to teach climbing or introduce climbing to?
Oh, just anybody.
Anybody
Mm,
in the world.
I think it'd be. I mean, I've done a lot of teaching of crack climbing in recent years, but I always thought it'd be fun to be able to teach somebody who's really strong in another sport.
Okay.
Um, I don't think I've ever taught anybody who's actually like a real top performer in a different sport aside from climbing, because I feel like they could bring some good elements into it. Maybe like the like gymnasts or parkour people or
Okay.
somebody like some of those bunch. I think like they would have they have like amazing strength and sort of agility and ability. And then if you showed them the technique, I think, and they sort of mastered it, I think they would make really good climbers. So it would be interesting to see. I think. Sorry, that wasn't really
Just
a
a
person, but that was a group of
Oh no,
people.
that's okay. That's a good
Yeah.
answer. I can just imagine you taking like a basketball player, like someone who's like over 6'6", and they have massive hands, and they're just like jamming their hand into something, and it's
Yeah,
like supposed to
yeah,
be an auth width, but it's actually just their fist or something
yeah.
like that.
They'd be amazing, wouldn't they? Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
they'd be really good. Yeah, just get somebody with massive fists on like a cam five crack or something. Yeah, that'd be good.
And they probably just like reach. They only have to go like two body lengths up to get anywhere
Yeah,
because they're
yeah,
so tall.
exactly.
So,
Yeah, yeah.
all right, Pete. So you seem like such a positive guy. You're always laughing, but are there things in this world, or like, are there any like small things that kind of annoy you?
If if like somebody comes over and they make a cup of tea and they leave the tea bags in the sink.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a small thing that annoys me a little bit. Because it's like a bin. So why don't you just put them in the bin?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
that's completely fair.
yeah. I'm not sure how small you're meaning. That's the one thing I can think of.
No,
Uh,
that's good.
I mean, I wouldn't get raged by it. It just kind of puzzles me why you wouldn't put it straight in the bin. Why you would put it in the sink? Maybe there's a reasonable answer for this. I don't know. Maybe somebody can. Yeah.
No, that's definitely one of those things where it's just like the person was lazy. There's no
Yeah.
ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's somebody who was just they didn't want to do it, so they're just like someone else will deal with it.
Yeah. 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 But
All right, Pete. So,
I'm just trying to think of if there's
oh
anything.
no, that's okay.
I don't think if there's anything else. I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
It's okay.
Yeah.
That's all good. I like the
Yeah.
answer.
Okay.
So I know that you said before you kind of like started doing climbing more full time. I know you were doing it up to I guess a couple years ago. You were kind of like arborist, right? Like a tree surgeon.
I was. Yeah.
And how did you get into that? Was it kind of just your love of the outdoors and you're just like, I can climb something as well, that kind of thing?
Yeah. I guess so. Like when I finished what do you call it? When I finished sixth form at 18,
Okay.
like school basically, I
Mhm.
was just sort of thinking, oh, like what should I do next? And it was kind of basically what you said. I was just thinking, I really like the outdoors. I get to be
Mhm.
active. I get to go climbing. It's kind of uh, in a way, it kind of felt like like a safe job to get into
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
there's a lot of tree surgery work in Sheffield. I just thought, yeah, it looks like good fun. So I kind of just I did a course, and that's where that started. Yeah, and then
Completely fair.
yeah. And I did it for about I did it from the age of 18 basically to 26 or 7. Yeah. So
Okay, so good chunk there.
yeah. So I was quite old. Yeah. A good fair time. 8 years or something. Yeah, 9 years. Yeah.
Do you remember what you wanted to be as a kid?
And I definitely didn't really have. Oh no, I remember like there's somebody who used to do some, some like subcontracting outdoor work at
Okay.
where my mum worked, but
Hmm.
he, as a profession, was a stuntman, like
Oh, yeah.
for like films and stuff.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
as like a very young kid, I always like thought, oh, that'd be really fun to be able to do that. But then as I grew up and I got into like teenage years and like I sort of when I looked into it a bit more, I realized that it wasn't really for me, and I had to do a lot of other things which didn't really interest me so much um, to be able to go down that route. So yeah, I never went down that route. That was like a that was like a very early thought in the sort of like 8, 9, 10 years old or something. Yeah, yeah,
Right, Pete. If you could visit one time period in the past,
yeah.
what time period would that be?
Oh, time period in the past. I think maybe before humans, because yeah, that's like a really long time ago. We sort of like know about humans and
Hmm.
like how
Hmm.
they lived and all that kind of stuff, but going way, way, way back before then I think that would be pretty cool to see. Like dinosaurs and before that, and actually see what
Oh yeah.
the world was like at that point. I would go way back if I could. Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely my answer too. Everyone I ask, they usually do something human related or even like very recent. But for me, it's like all prehistoric. I want to see to see a dinosaur would be insane. All
Yeah, 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 yeah.
right, Pete, we're gonna switch pace a bit. We're gonna do some like less in depth questions, but if you want to elaborate, feel free.
Yeah.
What's your favorite sports team?
Favorite sports team.
Yes.
Um, well, I used to watch football a lot as a
Hmm.
kid, and my dad and my family, I guess, support Burnley.
Oh,
So
Burnley. Okay.
I'm a Burnley supporter. Yeah, by
Are
football.
you a cat? Yeah. Cats or dogs?
Cats or dogs, because I'm allergic to cats.
Fair.
Yeah.
Spring or fall or autumn?
Ooh, spring and spring or autumn. Ooh, I'd go autumn.
All right. I think you M&Ms or Smarties. I believe you have Smarties in the UK, right?
Yeah, yeah, we do. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I would go M&Ms because there's more choice. You can have a chocolate filled one or a nut filled one. Do they do any other filled? There's more choice anyway, isn't there? And they're
Oh
bigger.
yes. One of your favorite documentaries?
Ooh, favorite documentary. Mm. In recent times, me and my girlfriend have been watching a lot of crime documentaries. Actually,
Okay.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. We recently watched the Making a Murderer series.
Oh yes.
Yeah, and I found that like uh, pretty interesting and uh, interesting and sad and yeah, like yeah, I thought it was good. I enjoyed it. Yeah,
Do you prefer an adventurous or relaxing vacation?
adventurous, definitely.
What is your go-to snack at a corner store?
At a corner store, um, it's probably just like a chocolate bar. To be honest, I'm not sure which one. Mm, either a chocolate bar or like a bag of little. If actually, like if I'm on a long drive somewhere and I just stop at the petrol station, for
Mm.
example, I usually
Mm.
buy like a bag of fruit gums or fruit pastels or something like that. So
Okay.
yeah, you could say that's my like car snack. Yeah, yeah,
Favorite childhood television show?
probably like The Simpsons.
All right. What's the most fun climb you have done? So it doesn't have to be the most memorable, but just the one that was just really enjoyable to do.
mm, I think the most enjoyable climbs are probably they're probably ones that are a bit more fresh in my memory, so more recent ones.
Okay.
Um, in recent years, I've enjoyed climbing on this cliff called Sharag, which is this big, like 800 to 900 meter wall in Norway.
Okay.
And I've climbed it a few times. It's like 20 to 28 pitches, let's say.
Okay.
Um, and you climb it in a day. because the climbing is relatively easy, but it's just nice to be able to move and cover that much ground within a day, I think. So, yeah.
Your favorite climbing move?
Favorite climbing move?
Yes.
Heel hooking.
Uh, favorite training exercise?
Ooh, favorite training exercise. I mean, I think one of my favorite places to train is probably Tom's cellar.
That's fair.
But it's not really an exercise, is it? That's just like
Mm-hmm.
sort of generic crack climbing. Um, I mean, if I sounds really boring, but if it has to be one specific exercise, I actually quite like fingerboarding, or maybe just because I've been doing it quite a lot recently because of there's been lots of
Mm-hmm.
lockdowns and staying at home, so I've just been hanging off a fingerboard.
I'll take that.
Yeah, yeah. There you go.
And on the inverse of that, what's your least favorite training exercise? So the one where you know it's good for you, but you hate doing them.
I'm not sure.
It's okay. It's okay, Pete.
I can't think of
No
anything.
big deal, man.
Yeah, sorry.
That's okay. Do you remember your first pair of climbing shoes?
First pair of climbing shoes. I think there were probably some uh, Boreal climbing shoes. I'm not sure what make they were though, but yeah,
That's
I'm
okay.
pretty sure they're Boreal.
Would you rather increase your one arm pull up max by one, or add 5 seconds to your front lever?
Uh, I'd rather increase my one arm pull up max rep. Yeah, yeah. I think it has a bit more benefit. Yeah.
Uh, what song best describes your climbing style?
Oof. Ooh. Uh, something like funky, a bit of a with a bit of a
Mm-hmm.
with a bit of a funky beat, because or maybe that's just the type of music that I like. I'm not sure, but I'm not really like, I wouldn't class myself as a really uh, strong climber. I would class
Okay.
myself as uh, using like techniques and tricks
Mm-hmm.
and a bit of like funkiness to get me up. So something like a bit funky. Yeah, we'll go with
All
that.
right. All
I
right.
can't think of anything in particular, but yeah.
It's a tough question. It's definitely. I think people want to be like kind of witty with it, but then it's tough. I don't
Yeah.
think anybody's given me a super good answer on
Yeah,
that one.
yeah,
Okay, so you met Tom, I guess, when you were around Tom Randall when you were about 18. 16, when you were just climbing at his gym. And I heard the story was he noticed you because you kept on breaking the beta, his intended beta, because he's a route setter at a gym. And then the friendship kind of just blossomed from there. Do you ever think about where you might be if you never met Tom, and like how you both? Do you think you would have gone in the direction you went in? Maybe just I know it's kind of a hypothetical question, but just maybe if you where things might have gone differently.
yeah, yeah. I think I mean, before I met Tom, I was actually already really into sort of trad climbing and
Okay.
pushing that side
Mhm.
of things. Um, so I feel like I would have certainly carried on in that direction. And I think where my interest lies, I'm sort of that kind of adventurous type of climbing. So I feel like I would have got into the big walling side of things, because my
Mhm.
first time big walling was actually with Tom as well. But I feel like
Okay.
I would have gone in that direction. But I think the only thing which I have pushed more, which I probably wouldn't have pushed as much potentially, is the crack climbing, which
Okay.
kind of seems, yeah, like obvious. But I think the crack climbing, we've both sort of pushed each other in a way with that, and then it's like rolled and snowballed. Yeah, I think the crack climbing has been sort of like a joint thing which we've pushed together. But then I've always been into like the trad climbing, and I think I would have moved into that big walling and adventurous type of climbing as well, even if I hadn't have met Tom, I would say.
All right, so this is a question I'm just curious about. I'm a big advocate of using tape, but I see when you tape up for crack climbing. I'm just wondering how quickly do you go through a roll of tape? Is it only good for like 1 or 2 sessions? Because that's a
Um,
lot of tape.
yeah, so you can reuse the tape gloves. So when you
Okay.
tape your hands, if you do it in a specific way, then
Mm-hmm.
you can take it off and then you can reuse the tape gloves.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you don't have to use like massive amounts of tape all the time,
Mhm.
but I would definitely say I have consumed a lot of tape in my life. In my climbing life. Yeah, it's kind of, yeah, it's just something that you end up going through quite a lot of, more than other climbers, being a crack climber, I would say. Yeah. But it's good to be able to reuse the gloves. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that
Yeah.
sounds like it will save a lot of time and a lot of money.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, so Pete, you have a really, I think you've just mentioned before this idea that in your mind you like the challenge, you like having things be tough and kind of like not quitting. Uh, so obviously that's helped you in your climbing career, propelling you to the level that you are at the moment. Uh, is there any is there like an origin of where this mindset kind of came from? Where you just like that kind of kid who was kind of like stubborn and is like, I'm not gonna give up, or like, just
Mm,
let us know.
yeah, I guess I've always been one to, I feel like it's doing the best I can in a situation or at a thing.
Okay.
So I always feel a bit disappointed in myself if I haven't done the best job of something that I can do. And I remember that at school as well, like doing work or
Hmm.
doing homework or doing exams, whatever it was. Like if I, even if it was something I didn't really enjoy, like nobody enjoys exams, but if I
No.
didn't, if I didn't give it like my best, I think
Hmm.
I'd be disappointed in myself. So I think that's kind of where that comes from, and I think I kind of apply that to whatever I'm doing, whether it's climbing or making little films or doing the business, like the things that I'm doing at the moment. If I haven't given it my best, then I'll probably be disappointed. So, yeah.
All right. So Pete, obviously with the Olympics coming up and climbing being the first year that climbing will be an event, so obviously it's gonna probably gain a bit more popularity, even more so in the next few years. So where do you hope the sport goes in the next, let's just say, 5 years?
Where do I hope it goes? Yeah, I mean, hopefully it'll just get more popular. More people will get psyched for it, and it just, I mean, you can already see when you go to the climbing gym that um, there's people down there who are using the climbing and the climbing space uh, instead of going to the gym. They're
Hmm.
using it
Hmm.
as, instead of going to the fitness gym,
Hmm.
and they're using climbing as a means of fitness, and I think that's really good. And if climbing can grow and people can get into it and using it as a way to stay healthy, then I think that's really good. Yeah, I think it's good that it's a growing sport, and it's good to be within that growing sport as it continues to go, I think.
All right, Pete. So my question for you right now is, why should we all try crack
Why
climbing?
should you?
To be
Why should,
clear for everyone else.
yeah, why should you all try crack climbing? Well, I think because it's a very technical aspect of climbing. So I think a lot of people see it as maybe a bit of pain and suffering,
Hmm.
maybe when they see it from the outset. But I think what people don't quite realize is there's a lot of technique to it, and when you learn that technique and master that technique, then it actually, something that was really difficult and maybe potentially painful becomes actually very enjoyable and quite easy as well. Um, yeah, and I think people would enjoy that process of learning from scratch and then being able to see some good progression. Yeah.
So, Pete, is there anything you'd like to do or achieve in your lifetime? And it does not have to be limited to the realm of climbing.
I feel like there's new things all the time. I don't really have
Okay.
one
Hmm.
one specific thing. It's usually like the things that I'm doing, but I definitely don't have like one big goal of like, you know, I
Hmm.
need to do this, I need to achieve this.
Hmm.
I think, just keep myself happy and keep the people around me happy. And, yeah, keep going.
That's fair.
Yeah, yeah.
Are there any words you try to live by?
Not really. I'm not really one of those sort of people, I don't think. Uh,
Or maybe just like how you best try to how can you sum up how you try to live your life?
Yeah, how do I try to live my life? I guess like I try and stay happy.
Hmm.
It's not always possible. Definitely not. I'm not always happy. um, that's like a really difficult thing to do, I think. Um, but yeah, and I think like trying to stay busy as well. Trying to stay
Okay.
busy and keeping your mind and body occupied. Yeah, I think that sort of, gets you through the days and keeps you going. That's how I
All
try.
right.
That's how I try to live. Yeah, keeping occupied.
Placement of this question is going to be totally random because we were kind of just talking about some deeper questions, but it just kind of came back to my mind because I just remembered this interview you did. But it was an interview where someone was like asking you about the states, and you
Mhm.
said something about, oh, I really like the fact that there are so many different Pop Tart flavors in the states
Oh yeah.
relative to the UK. I just thought that was hilarious, Pete. Can you just like, as a person who doesn't really eat Pop Tarts, what really drives you towards the Pop Tart, even just in the UK, not just the US ones?
Well, we don't really. I'm not sure if we even have them in the UK.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't think so. So it's like a US thing, and I feel like I remember the first time I went to the US, I was just introduced to them by Tom. For some reason,
Okay.
he had this thing of Pop Tarts, and we had to get some Pop Tarts the first time I went, and then it just became this thing really. And then over the years, we've just been trying different flavors, and then we've just narrowed it down to the flavors that we like. And so yeah, that's the Pop Tart story. Yeah, yeah.
Are you a big sweets person?
I love treats and cake and chocolate. Yeah, yeah. Anything sweet. I'm definitely sweets. Yeah,
You're
mm,
more a dessert person? Will you like eat
yeah,
any dessert, basically, Pete?
yeah, yeah. I love desserts. Desserts are good.
Okay.
I'm basically like the treats and cake and desserts person rather than the uh, coffee and wine person. Let's say I don't really drink alcohol.
Mhm.
I don't drink coffee. But I just love treats. Yeah.
All right, Pete. Can you just let us all know where we can find you on the internet, social media, and that kind of thing?
Yeah, so my Instagram, Facebook names are Pete Whittaker 01. And then like all the wide boys stuff is wide underscore boys. And like sort of where I post my longer form content and videos on YouTube, that's like under the wide boys name. So yeah, Pete Whittaker 01 or wide boys, both of them.
Do you have anything coming up? I know, obviously, with the COVID situation, it's probably putting a damper on your plans, but assuming things get better in the next few months, do you have anything coming up down the line that we can look forward to?
I mean, I can't say I've really planned anything, especially not
Mhm.
in terms of any trips.
Yes.
I mean, my girlfriend lives out in Norway, so
Mhm.
I will hope to go and see her at some point. uh, so yeah, I kind of spend my time between England and Norway at the moment. Um, but in terms of like trips and projects and things like that, yeah, I don't really have anything further afield. In terms of climbing projects, I guess I have like a big new route which I'm working
Mm.
on in the
Mhm.
UK. Um,
Okay.
but that has like even even if like some COVID restrictions were lifted,
Mhm.
that also has bird ban restrictions on it. So like
Oh, okay.
nesting seabirds, so you have to
Mhm.
wait
Mhm.
for a certain period of time in the year to be able to climb that as well. So I'm a bit on a like a short time frame on that project.
All right. Well, Pete, thank you so much for coming on. I really enjoyed talking to you. It's a big honor to talk to you. I mean, I've been watching climbing. I've only gone into climbing the last year or so, but
Okay.
I've seen you in a bunch of different videos. I've been following the wide boys, and it's always hilarious watching you and Tom just do ridiculous things. And I love that you guys are having so much fun when you're making your videos and just climbing. So
Yeah. Cheers. Yeah, and thanks for having me on as well.
no problem. Well, everyone, thank you so much for watching. Subscribe for new videos every Tuesday and Friday. Please take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next video.